Thank you for viewing this instructional video. This brake rate analysis tool was developed by the Southwest Environmental Finance Center to compare annual main brakes from your system to the U.S. and Canadian average brake rates for 7 different pipe materials, as published by Dr. Stephen Folkman in 2012 and 2018. Dr. Folkman's studies clearly demonstrate that the average failure rates for different pipe materials vary dramatically. The AWWA Partnership for Safe Water posits a brake rate of 15 brakes per 100 miles of mains per year as a goal for a fully optimized water system. What this benchmark does not take into account, however, is the very different material makeups of drinking water distribution systems throughout the country. Matching that 15 brakes per 100 mile per year brake rate in a predominantly cast iron system would mean something very different than matching that rate with a predominantly PVC system, because the average failure rates for those two materials differ by an order of magnitude. Thus, we feel that when comparing your system's brake rates to benchmarks, it's important to consider the materials your system is made of. This tool uses the data you provide about the material makeup of your system and the number of brakes by material to calculate a theoretical weighted average brake rate for your system based on the study average. In other words, the brake rate for your system if all the pipe materials were braking at the US and Canadian averages. The tool then calculates a brake rate index, or BRI, which is a non-dimensional index we developed that is simply your system's actual brake rate per mile per year divided by the theoretical weighted average material-specific brake rate calculated for your system. If a system-wide BRI equals 1, then the system's pipes are braking at the US-Canadian average. If a system-wide BRI is less than 1, then the system pipes are braking at a rate lower than the US-Canadian average. A system-wide BRI of 2 would then mean that the system-wide brake rate is twice the material weighted average US-Canadian brake rate. Because we have found that many systems with low overall brake rates nevertheless have higher or lower than average brake rates on some materials, our tool also calculates material-specific brake rate indices for any pipe materials that you entered. The material-specific BRIs are interpreted just like the system-wide BRI. If, for example, the BRI for cast iron pipe is 0.5, then the brake rate on that cast iron pipe in your system is half of the US-Canadian average. This tool was designed for use by US and Canadian drinking water distribution systems, but can be used by any system to compare their brake rates to the US and Canadian averages. Note that it is not unusual for a system total BRI to be less than 1, and for certain materials in that system to have material BRIs significantly higher than 1. Our tool lets you enter data for multiple years so that you can chart your system's brake rates over time. Your results will be presented in an easy-to-read dashboard with dial gauges displaying system-wide and material-specific BRIs, and a comparison of the percentage of brakes on each material to the percentage of the system that material makes up. Please note that we are collecting data with this tool for research purposes, namely the entered pipe and brake data, size of population served, and the state in which you are located, if you submit that information. No IP addresses or other identifying information is collected, and if you wish to opt out of data collection, you can still use this tool. Simply leave the state and province field blank and no other data will be collected. Please note that you must print your results from the reports page or your data will be lost to you. If you have any questions about this tool, please contact us at swefc@unm.edu. Thank you. This is a brief demo to show you how the tool works. You can select a unit of measure, either feet or miles. You can select your state or province from the pull-down list, and you can also select the population size that you serve. As I mentioned before, we're collecting data with this tool. If you don't want your information to be included in the data set, simply leave the state and population fields blank and your data will not be collected. Be sure, once you have selected your units of measure and location information, to click the Proceed to BRI Year Selection button at the bottom of the page. On this page, you can select the years that you want to analyze data for. In this case, I've selected 2016 and 17. Again, make sure you click on the Proceed button. On this page, you'll enter the length in miles for the different materials in your system and the number of breaks that you've had on each of those types of materials. I'll be filling out all of the information in our example here. If you have a system that does not have one of these materials in it, simply leave both the length and the number of breaks fields for that particular material blank, and the tool will disregard it. If you're collecting multiple years worth of data, make sure that you click the Save BRI Record button in the bottom left-hand corner. This writes your system information to our database so that the data can be analyzed. If you're analyzing multiple years worth of data, you will input the data for the first year and then proceed to the second using the buttons below. If the amount of any given material in your system changes year over year, you can update that information in the specific year's data entry. Don't forget to save your data for the last record that you put in, and then click the Proceed to Reports. Your break rate analysis is presented in a dashboard format. Each specific material has a dial gauge that is scaled based on the materials you put in. At the top of the page, you'll be able to select the year of interest if you have entered data for multiple years. If you entered multiple years worth of data, you can use the Select Year of Interest tab to switch back and forth between years. Your break rate indices are presented in the form of dial gauges, one for each of the 7 listed materials, and a total system-wide BRI gauge. Again, if your BRI is less than 1, that means the break rate for that particular material or the system as a whole is lower than the US and Canadian averages. If it's higher than 1, that means it's higher than the US and Canadian averages. We've color-coded the gauges for ease of use. A BRI of 0.9 or less is colored green. BRIs between 0.9 and 2 are colored yellow, and anything above that is colored in red. Note that your dials will scale automatically for your data. Thus, in this example here, if you look at the steel example, you will see that the BRI tops out at 12.9. In this case, the break rate for steel is almost 13 times the US and Canadian national average. Please note that in this example, you will see that although the overall total BRIs is less than 1, there are individual material BRIs that are significantly higher than 1. The next set of charts compare the percent of breaks on any given material to the percent of your system that is made up by that material. In our example here, you can see that for asbestos cement, 7.1% of the main breaks are occurring on asbestos cement pipe, which makes up 11.7% of the system mains. The standout in this example is steel pipe. 21.4% of the main breaks in this sample data are occurring on steel pipe, which only makes up 1.4% of the system mains. Finally, at the bottom of the results page, you will be presented with a table that contains all of the information that was used to calculate the various break rate indices. Please note that any data you have entered will not be available after you close your browser and your session is over. Therefore, it is important that you print your results before you leave the site. If you have multiple years' worth of data, be sure to print all of them. You can click on the blue titles above each of the tables for more information about how to interpret your results. If you wish to start a new data analysis session, simply click the Start New Session button at the top right-hand corner of the page. Please note that if you do this, previously entered data will be lost to you. Thank you for watching this preview. We hope you find the tool useful. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to us at swefc@unm.edu. Thank you.